The debriefing sessions built into AHA courses encourage students to analyze their own performance in the learning station scenarios. Structured and supported debriefing is an organized, evidence-based, student-focused process that takes place in a non-threatening environment. Debriefings help students think as a group about what they did in the scenario they just enacted and how they can sustain good performance. The goal of a debriefing session for students is to discuss and reflect on the actions and thought processes related to the scenario, and to encourage students to incorporate these improvements. In an effective debriefing session, instructors first ask questions to engage the students, and only afterward do they offer their own perspective. Because this approach focuses on what students think rather than on the instructor's viewpoint, students are more likely to remember and apply the lessons in their practice. During a debriefing, you should focus on timing, process, and content. By timing, we mean that debriefing conversations should occur after a simulation or real clinical events. By process, we mean that instructors should seek students' perspectives. And by content, we mean that debriefing for resuscitation education must also address specific issues related to performance. Additionally, teams should review the goals established during pre-briefing and, if necessary, discuss what can be done differently in the future to ensure that those goals are met. Even though debriefings are held in an environment that's judgment-free and safe for learning, they can sometimes elicit emotional responses from different students. As an AHA instructor, you have the responsibility of maintaining an environment that's conducive to learning, which means that you'll need to manage emotions and conflict and ensure that all students feel that their voices are heard. Let's review 3 strategies you can respond with to help you do that. The techniques are known as naming the dynamic, validation, and paraphrasing. Naming the dynamic is a strategy that's particularly useful in debriefing sessions that have become tense or unproductive. Because we're focused on the student's perspective, some comments are likely to be subjective. By explicitly acknowledging a tense or unproductive atmosphere, instructors can try to get the debriefing back on track. Here are some phrases that may work to diffuse such situations. "You seem to be feeling frustrated. What's on your mind?" Or, "It seems like the key issue here is communication, and that is causing some confusion." Use this strategy in situations where students seem emotional, disengaged, or defensive. Another strategy is validation, which recognizes and accepts a student's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors as understandable without necessarily agreeing or disagreeing with them. Through validation, instructors introduce compassion in a non-confrontational manner, state that they are listening, and create a timeout. The timeout serves to both diffuse the situation and recognize the student's perspective, all of which can be useful in a debriefing situation. Here's a phrase that may work when using the validation technique. "I think I understand what you're trying to say. Even established teams can have problems with communication, and that can be frustrating." The validation strategy is recommended for students who offer both good and poor insight during a debriefing and who tend to dominate the discussion. The last strategy is paraphrasing. The purpose of paraphrasing is to signal to students that you are listening to all of them and provide an alternate voice if one student is dominating the conversation. A new speaker can help bring uninterested students back into the fold and prompt them to offer their own insights. Here are some examples of paraphrasing. "So, if I'm hearing you correctly, you feel that the deterioration of the patient was primarily because of delayed treatment. Does that sound right?" Or, "So what I'm hearing is that some of the group felt strongly about going in another direction, but the team leader didn't want to change strategies. Does that sound about right?" Like the validation strategy, paraphrasing is useful when you have students who tend to dominate the conversation. As an instructor, you will encounter situations where you're managing students who may be emotional, defensive, or disengaged, or they may dominate the discussion. The better prepared you are to intervene, the more likely you'll be able to manage challenging debriefing sessions. Keeping in mind the debriefing goals, being mindful of body language and other nonverbal cues, and understanding the key reactive strategies will help you to effectively manage the most challenging debriefing situations.